Thank you guys for being here. I am very excited for this topic. We are talking about municipal lien searches and permitting issues today. And we have Kathy Braid from Old Republic Title, who is going to be doing the class for us today. So Old Republic Title is our underwriter, and they are a very strong underwriter. We love having them on our side and on our team, and they give some amazing feedback with these classes and such like that. So it's great to just be able to host this. This is hosted by MCRTC, as you guys know, and we've been doing quite a bit of classes with MCRTC over the past few months, which are all located on our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services, by the way. But my name is Lucie McGuire. I am the Business Development Officer for Arrow Title Services, and I know quite a few of you guys in here already, so it's good to see you guys again, as well as seeing all these new faces. So thank you guys for coming and joining us today, and we hope that you find this helpful. So I'm actually born and raised here in Florida, and it's really great to see all of the changes that's been happening to our area. And I absolutely love it. This area is home to me, even though it's hot all year round. I still love it. And Arrow Title Services came about a few years ago. Michelle Chart, which some of you may or may not know, she's actually been in the industry locally for almost 30 years. So she has quite a bit of experience behind her. And it's been such a pleasure for me to learn from her and help her grow Arrow. And we really try to focus on helping, us as Arrow, when you guys have a contract with us, the biggest thing for us is communication, and we want to be valuable to you as well, which is kind of where I come in. And I really try to help the agents that work with us and such like that, or even, you don't have to work with us right away or anything like that, but I try to provide value to you guys and help you guys on social media in so many different ways. So if you guys ever have any questions about social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, feel free to reach out to me. I will put my contact information in the chat, but if you guys ever want a one-on-one and want specific help, I am here for you. We also, since COVID, have done so many changes, and we've created a lot of value on our social media. So we host every week a Market Update Monday with local realtors, and we also host a Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate with local realtors and lenders. And those are live videos that we go and stream onto our Facebook, and we put onto our YouTube channel as well. And we reach about 1,000 people per week on those live videos. If you guys want a free option to be able to get in front of people and share your knowledge about real estate, feel free to reach out to me to get onto those. It's free, absolutely free. All you have to do is come and provide value, talk about real estate, which is what you do every day. And we'd really be happy to have you. We always try to have well-rounded people on there. And yeah, so you guys are able to look at all the classes that we've done through MCRTC on our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services, and I'll put all of that in the chat. But I want Kathy to, thank you so much, Kathy, for coming on here and sharing with us this topic. And if you guys have any questions throughout this course, feel free to utilize the chat. You can also raise your hand with the raise your hand function, or you can unmute yourself and try and ask a question like that. But it might be best to put it in the chat, and I will actually pause Kathy and say, hey, Kathy, we have a question about this on whatever topic we're talking about at that moment. And yeah, feel free to ask your questions. This is, an open forum. We want to make sure that your questions are answered throughout this course. So thank you guys so much. And thank you, Kathy. Take it away.
Okay, that's my pleasure. Thank you for that great introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to talk about municipal lien searches. I'm going to share my screen now so that I can get the presentation here for you to view. Let me just, hang on for a sec. Let me just open it. Okay, so you can see my screen, correct? Yes? Okay, perfect. Okay. So we're going to talk about municipal lien searches and permitting. I'm going to turn my head this way because this is where I have my screen. So you'll see the side of my head. Sorry, but you should be looking at the screen. Okay, so why is it important for you to know about municipal lien searches and permitting? When we spoke about the contract last week, certain paragraphs in the contract do refer to permits, lien searches, Your as-is contract, of course, we know that the seller doesn't have to contribute anything as money-wise, but they do have to share with the buyer any plans or any information they have about an open permit that may be open and expired or open in and of itself. So most importantly, people want to know, what is a municipal lien search? Oh. A municipal lien search reveals unrecorded liens. It's called a municipal lien search, but they're not actually liens. When you get your title commitment, when you review a title commitment, if you see it, your buyer may ask you, what is this title commitment? What is it for? The examiner searches public records. They'll search whatever county the property is located in, Palm Beach County, Broward County, whatever the case may be. So they go into the county records and they search the person's name, the property address, to see if there are any liens or judgments that attach to that property, whether it be a mortgage, whether it be a tax lien, federal tax lien, any types of judgments. Those are actual liens. They attach to the property and they have to be paid before closing or at closing in order for the buyer to have clear title, to be able to own that property free and clear of any title defects that happen before they own the property. Title insurance protects the buyer from the closing date backwards. So it doesn't, it's not like regular homeowner insurance that protects for future perils. This is for something that's happened in the past. So that's why the title agent may need a corrective deed. They may need to have something satisfied. Sometimes people don't realize that a home equity line is actually a mortgage and there is a lien on their property for that home equity line that has to be paid. So again, these things show up on the title commitment. When the contract talks about municipal liens, they do not show up on the title commitment because they're not actually liens on the property yet. They may in the future become a lien, but at this point in time, they're not. They're just your worst nightmare and your client's worst nightmare. So as I said, the municipal lien search reveals unrecorded liens. The title search will only uncover any liens recorded in the public records. Municipal lien search reveals the following: code violations, special assessments, any unpaid utility bills, any open expired permits, and property taxes. Now the property taxes, when the title agent gets in, well, usually when they open the file, they'll print the warranty deed and the taxes to just make sure that they have the correct legal description, the correct folio number, et cetera. And those papers come in with a commitment as well. So the taxes are looked at several times, but they come in with the municipal lien search. So when Lucie's office gets in the contract, they will order a municipal lien search on a purchase. So again, they're going to look at that. If there are any issues, they're going to bring it to the attention of the real estate agents, and then the clients will discuss what's going to happen. So it's always important to understand that everything, as I said last week, in the contract is negotiable. So even though it's an as-is contract, if there is an open expired permit, the buyer may want the seller to take care of that. I know in Miami-Dade County, what most of the realtors put on the as-is contract on the last page, with the permission of their brokers, is in the additional comments section, they'll put seller to, well, let's say seller to close any open expired permits and code violations. So that means if the seller signs it, if there's something outstanding, then they would have to take care of that. But as is, the seller doesn't have to do anything. With your regular residential contract, there is a maintenance section where the seller would have to pay for any general repairs, any wood destroying organisms, if there's any types of issues with termites or anything like that. And they would have to assist and pay for any of the open expired permits, unless it's negotiated differently. But in your as-is contract, it's not there. So as we said in the FAR contract, if the seller is going to pay paragraph 9C1, which means the seller is choosing the title agent and the seller is paying for the owner's title insurance policy, or 9C3, the property is located in Miami-Dade or Broward County, the seller would pay for the municipal lien search. In paragraph 9B, if the buyer is choosing the title, if the buyer, excuse me, it's paragraph 9C2, sorry about that. If the buyer is choosing the title agent and paying for their owner's title insurance and policy, then they would be paying for the municipal lien search. And it varies depending upon the company. Usually the title agent uses a third-party provider because some municipalities, if they need to get utilities or any information from the municipality, which would be open permits or code violations, it may take a while, but the lien search companies do have an understanding with them and they can get it sometimes easier than the title agent can. Some of the items are online. I know in Palm Beach County, you can see permits. If the property is in the county, in the unincorporated area, you can see any open or open expired permits that would have to be taken care of. But most agents do outsource to a third party. Do you do that, Lucie, when you have a file? Do you order from a third party, or do you, and some people don't do them, so it just depends on the county.
We do order from a third party, only because like St. Lucie County can be a pain to deal with sometimes. And just so you guys know, just for clarification purposes here locally, when there is a property in St. Lucie County, we have to do a lien search because the lien does attach to the property itself. But when it is in Martin County, the liens actually attached to the individual, not the property. So we actually we're not required to do a lien search in Martin County, just so you guys know.
Yeah, see, as I said, it's different. Each county is different. So the agent, the title agent actually knows, I don't, because there are so many counties in Florida. So again, it's unique to the different areas. So it's always good to understand why it's done and how it's done. And again, you can always contact Lucie. She knows, she's a knowledgeable person. She says she's in it for a short period of time, but she sure knows a lot for a short period of time. Paragraph 9C, it actually defines what a municipal lien search is. It says that for the purposes of this contract, a municipal lien search means a search of records necessary for the owner's policy of title insurance to be issued without exception for unrecorded liens imposed pursuant to Chapter 159 or 170 in favor of any governmental body, authority, or agency. Chapter 159 has to do with utilities. That would be water, sewer, whatever the case may be, garbage collection. And Chapter 170 would be for any type of municipal assessments, let's say, which would be maybe park benches or let's see, it could be lamps, lamp posts in certain areas. So again, that would show up on that municipal lien search. If requested, the municipal lien search must be completed and given to the buyer within the title evidence deadline. If the buyer is getting a mortgage, that time period is 15 days prior to the closing. If the buyer is paying cash, that time frame is 5 days prior to the closing. So again, the title agent understands this. They order it as soon as possible. So once again, it's important that this happens, because if there is an issue and the buyer doesn't see that, or the buyer isn't made aware, or the realtor isn't made aware, then again, if there's something in there that the buyer doesn't, that the buyer feels is too costly or whatever, the buyer can cancel the contract during that title evidence, during that their inspection period.
Can I add one thing there too,
Chapter
Kathy?
1.
Oh, can I add one thing there? Can I add one thing there too?
Sure. Absolutely.
When it comes to, when you guys are doing contracts and putting on dates for these contracts, keeping in mind which county it is very important. So like if you guys are trying to do a quick close, whether it be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if it's a cash deal, or if it's a mortgage company or whatever it might be, all of those things come into it, right? So it takes time for us to get our title search, which isn't as long, but if we're ordering a lien search, if it is in St. Lucie County and you guys are trying to do a really quick close, St. Lucie County right now is about 7 to 10 business days to get a lien search back to us. So, that can affect the process if, we have to wait until after the inspection period before we're spending anybody's money, and then making sure that we order that lien search and, we have enough time before closing to be able to make sure that, hey, there's nothing attached to this property and we are free and clear to go forward. So just something to keep in mind that I wanted to add in there. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, and I mean, and I know, like, I'm in South Florida here, I'm in Boca Raton and our Miami, Dade County. Those municipal lien searches can take 3 weeks because there's just so much stuff. There's still so much stuff open from Hurricane Andrew. They're open, expired, and, you know, it just complicates the process. So it depends on where you're located. And as Lucy said, it's important to understand if you want a quick closing before you agree to a 2-week cash deal, and just, make sure that you understand that that municipal lien search may not be back, and then there may be a problem afterwards. We're going to talk about some of the issues that have happened. So this just goes over on what the Chapter 159 is. It provides that any city, town, village, or port authority in the state of Florida which issues revenue bonds, right, under Chapter 159 has a lien, although unrecorded, on all properties served by any water, sewer, or gas system for all services for water, sewer, and gas services until paid in full. If the lien is delinquent more than 30 days, it can be foreclosed just like a mortgage. That's why we always do that municipal lien search, just to find out, to make sure there's nothing going on there. They're not recorded, they're actually there as an unrecorded lien. They're trying to get this changed. The legislature has been trying to get this changed so that there are not these types of issues. But again, we know how government works, not too good. So, people don't communicate, everybody wants their own way, and they don't want to change things. Chapter 170, as I said, is for special assessments. It could be any of these things: construction, paving, repair of sidewalks. There's so many different areas that Chapter 170 covers. So again, that would show up on that municipal lien search. There's an area in Pasco County where there is something out there, but it's hidden. Like, a title agent would never be able to find it. There are specific departments that these municipal lien search companies know to go to find these assessments that are not readily available to the public or even to a title agent unless they really understand what's going on in a particular county. So that's why it's so important for the agent to use a third party who actually knows the ins and outs of the different counties. Paragraph 10 of both contracts says that the seller is to disclose in the buyer in writing if they know of any improvements made to the property which were made without required permits or made pursuant to permits that have not been closed properly. So it's important for you when you go on your listing appointment to ask the seller if they've had any work done on their property. Did they have a new air conditioner put in? And maybe there's an open expired permit because the air conditioner wasn't, the inspector didn't come to close out that permit, or ductwork, or fences. I mean, anything that you would need a permit for, if it's not closed, it will remain open until it's inspected by the county or the city. So what happens is, my son purchased a home, and the day before closing, the municipal lien search came in, and it said that there was an open expired permit. And the permit had expired a month before he purchased his home. The electrician whose name was on that permit was in business, fortunately still in business. And when my son contacted him, he said, "Oh, I remember that house. And you know what? The code has changed. So now it's not up to code. So I have to come over and do some additional work. But because I never had it closed out, I'm not going to charge you." Well, he was lucky because, I mean, it was probably just a little fix. If it was an expensive fix, he certainly wasn't going to do it for free, whether it was his fault or not, right? So these things can be of little consequence. They cannot be that expensive to fix, or it might be a big fix. Or maybe they added a room, okay? And that's an addition that was not permitted. Let's say it was not permitted. Well, if you go into a home and it's only supposed to be a 2-bedroom, and it's actually now a 3-bedroom, well, that's a little bit of a red flag for you, because that should be, well, gee, did you add this room? You have electric in here, or maybe they put a new bathroom in or an additional bathroom and they didn't pull any permits. So was it inspected for plumbing? Was it inspected for electric? So there are certain questions that you should be asking, certain red flags. If you go in the garage is now a man cave, you know, when you go in and you think you're walking into a garage and it's like, you know, a sports den, right? or it's one of those chick shacks or whatever they call them for girls. I don't know. But, you know, those are questions that you should ask, because was there a permit pulled? Was this work done without a permit? Again, that can affect things, because suppose it was supposed to be a 2-bedroom house and it's actually a 3-bedroom house and nothing was permitted. Well, that can be a problem, because suppose it's not zoned for that. Suppose you couldn't do something there that they did. Maybe they would have to take that down. So, you know, these are all questions that you should be asking when you go in there. So the seller should have, as the contract said, should have disclosed to the buyer in writing if they know of anything that has been done to the property with a permit, without a permit, or with a permit that has not been closed. If they did do the work, if they have plans or anything else like that, they should share that with the buyer so the buyer has that in their file. Paragraph 12 of the as-is contract, the property inspection. As I said before, if there's a little asterisk next to a line, there's a blank or a box that needs to be filled in. So again, this is left blank. So again, if left blank 15 days after the effective date of the contract, which is the inspection period, the buyer can have an inspection of the property to determine, you know, if they want to purchase it, right? And then it says, unless the buyer expresses the right to terminate granted herein, the buyer accepts the physical condition of the property and any violation of governmental, building, environmental, and safety codes, restrictions, or requirements. So again, the buyer may not have any recourse afterwards. So it's very important for the buyer to understand that, you know, there are things out there that are not, will not show up on the commitment and are not covered under the title insurance policy. The seller's assistance and cooperation and closeout of those building permit. If the inspection or the municipal lien search shows that there's anything there, well, the seller would again share any plans or any information they have about the improvement or about the issue that the permit refers to. They would share any of that, and then they would allow like a handyman or a company to come in to give the buyer an estimate of what it would cost to fix that issue. If the person comes in and maybe puts a hole in the wall to check electricity or something like that, the property has to be returned to that condition it was before that person was in there to check out what their estimate would be. But the seller is not obligated to pay any money toward the closeout of that permit as per the as-is contract, because the buyer is purchasing the property as is, and it's not the seller's responsibility to give them anything toward it. Again, with your regular residential contract, they do have to satisfy that unless, again, everything is negotiable. So even here, as I said, in Miami-Dade County and Broward County, most real estate agents put, you know, seller shall close any open expired permits and satisfy any code violations. But again, that's with a manager's approval.
Can I mention
This
really
is the
quick?
standard.
Can I mention really quick about cash buyers? If you guys have cash buyers and they're trying to like not get title insurance or not be aware of it, just please advise them further, because we actually had a cash buyer come in after the fact that he purchased the property, and he realized that after he had purchased it from the IRS and it was transferred over to him, and that property ended up having like 7 different liens on it, and he was like, he thought he was good, and it was kind of like too little too late type of situation. So just a fair warning for that too, if you have cash buyers trying to negate that process.
And as Lucy said, once he buys the property, they attach to the property. They don't attach to the seller. So if it's a lien on the property, even if it's in somebody else's name, it's attached to the property like a mortgage. The mortgage may be in John Smith's name and Tom Jones bought the property. Well, that's too bad, too sad, because it attached to the property, right? Same with any type of a judgment that attaches to a property. That's why, you know, you have to be careful too. People will say, well, I want to do a quick claim deed. I want to do a quick claim deed. Well, you know what? If it's a husband and wife, it's not so great to do a quick claim deed, because if you take one out of title and the judgment's on the other person, it's going to attach to that property. So again, don't suggest quick claim deeds. Don't suggest that they don't get title insurance, as Lucy was saying, with as far as the cash purchase. We have a survey presentation that I can do as well. Don't ever tell them that they don't need a survey, because they do need a survey. You know, they may think their property line is here. They may think something is theirs and it's not. There may be an easement that, you know, may jeopardize where their home is located or their pool is located. So there's certain things that are hidden, just like a municipal lien search would expose. But again, if you have a survey and you have your title commitment, you can tell where easements are and you can tell if everything is okay with that. These really, you can't tell unless you have that municipal lien search. So that's why it's so important to understand about them. So as I said, on your regular residential, the contract does address permits and what the seller has to pay. Code violations, they're either with the city or the county. Code violations do not fall under Florida statute 159 or 170. They're put into place to maintain the neighborhood and the community's quality of life, enforce land development regulations and all county or city ordinances in a timely and equitable manner. Common code violations include zoning, property maintenance standard, overgrown lots, permitted or illegal construction. People need permits for fences. You need permits for different things. And I'll tell you, in our community, as in most communities, even the county has certain things, they have regulations. You can get a code violation for putting your garbage can out too early. You know, they need money now, so they ride around these little code enforcement vehicles riding around to see who's violating any code, by codes that they have out there. If your fence is too high, you know, if you're only supposed to have a 6-foot fence, you didn't get a permit, well, you're going to get, you know, dinged on that. And if you put up an 8-foot fence instead of a 6-foot fence, you get dinged on that. So there are different things that will happen. These are code violations. The homeowner is notified if they have a code violation, but they never, because they seem to forget or they just don't know what a code violation is. So you have to be very careful when you are talking to the people, the sellers, to make sure that they let you know. In my area, we had somebody reported somebody for something, and then the code enforcement people came in, and we have behind the perimeter of our community, and people have fences there. They put up, you know, wooden fence or whatever the case may be, and they got a code violation for that, because that's restricted use property. And the county said that because there was a restriction there, unless they got a letter from the homeowners association stating that they would agree to remove that fence should the homeowners association decide to do something in that restricted use area, that they would have to pay a fine, right? So of course the community gave them a letter, you know, and the people signed it stating that if they had to remove the fence, they could. So that was a code violation. I mean, it really didn't make any sense to most of us, but that's what they did. So you never know what's going to happen. So you just have to be aware that it may be out there. You know, some people, most communities that we have, you know, the homeowners association will say if your property is overgrown or whatever the case may be. But if you're out in the county area where you don't have a homeowners association, well, that may be a code violation within the city or the community, the town that you live in. Code enforcement liens. The liens arising under Chapter 159 are separate and distinct from other county and municipal liens that may claim super priority, such as code enforcement liens. A code enforcement lien may be recorded based on the authority granted to the local government or local law or ordinance. Once they're recorded, the code enforcement lien attaches to all real property owned by the violator named in the lien in the county where the lien is recorded. So once it's recorded, then it would show up on the title commitment, and then it would have to be taken care of, and the title agent would know it. So in some areas they're recorded, in some areas they're not. The Florida Land Title Association and the underwriters are pushing to get them recorded because it just becomes a nightmare afterwards. Again, that's why we order those municipal lien searches. Many local governments have enacted provisions in their local codes and ordinances which give these liens super priority at the same level as taxes. So that makes it really difficult, because taxes, you'll see when you get in the title search, they'll see the taxes there, but they won't see a code violation unless it's recorded and it has that priority as taxes. So, I mean, it could actually place exception for code enforcement liens cannot be removed unless, again, they're not always a lien on the property. In some places they are, but not all. True story. Pompano Beach, 2015. Property sold, then the buyer received notice of code violation totaling over $2 million. Okay, this really happened. The daily rate was $1,600 since 2011. There were 8 separate violations. 8 separate violations listed pertain to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fencing improvements that were made without permits. Those 8, each violation was $200 per day, right? So by the time that they closed, they went to closing, it equaled over $2 million. So the seller did not get any permits when he renovated his property. The seller negotiated with the seller, with the county, of course, to pay a lesser amount. The unpermitted work turned into building code violations, and that's why they were so expensive. Then the building code violations are not always recorded in the county. So what happens is the seller did the work, never had any permits, so those all became building code violations, which are to still own a municipal lien search company. And he gets no permits on properties that he buys, renovates, and then sells, and puts it on the contract, and people buy the property. He said that, you know, these additions were done without any building permits. I mean, I think that's kind of silly to buy a property like, just understand that, always ask the seller if you see any upgrades, did they do the work? Was it permitted? And things like that. So if you see any improvements, always ask if they have a permit, if the contractor had a permit, so that you know that everything will be okay. In Gainesville, in 2015, a couple purchased a home in 2010. The city denied a permit for a screen enclosure on their back because there was an open expired roof permit from 2005. So it was open and expired. The roofer completed the work without his home. The electrician completed the work, but then the contractor has to call the inspector and have the inspector go inspect it. The buyers contacted the roofer, who then got a new permit and had the building inspector sign off, and there was no charge, and that was happy ending. I did this for another group of realtors, and the gentleman said he had a situation for dog poop, believe it or not. The guy lived in a condominium, and he would take his dog out, and the dog would do his business, and he wouldn't pick it up. And the people complained, and he got code violations, right? Because that you have to pick up the poop from your dog. And it was over a number of years. There was never a lien on the property, but when they got the municipal lien search, it was like over $100,000 of these code violations. But again, that can always be negotiated down. You know, they make them so high because they want the person to pay it, especially now that they need money. Nobody's going to pay, you know, over $100,000 because they didn't pick up their dog poop, you know, or $2 million because they had electrical work done and some plumbing and stuff like that. But again, you know, they can't ignore it. I would assume that you know you have a code violation because I'm sure they somehow notify you. Special assessments are charges levied against a particular property that will gain a benefit from a public project. They typically include infrastructure projects such as new roads, streets, lights, sewers, stormwater, water connections, etc. This type of charge is not listed in ad valorem taxes. Some counties will list special assessments on the non-ad valorem section of the tax bill, but not always. Some may be found in Publix. Yep, I'm thinking about Publix for the COVID vaccine. Some may be found in public records and will show up on the title search, but not always. My cousin lives in Jupiter, and where she lives, they did not have sewers. So they put sewers in it, and each home was assessed $10,000 for that work. So she went on like a payment plan because she couldn't afford to pay it up. So now when the property is sold, it will show up. It should show up somewhere. If it doesn't show up on the tax bill, it will show up on that municipal lien search, because that's one of the special assessments that would show up on municipal lien search. In Pasco County, as I said, any property, whether it be built in conjunction in the jurisdiction of the county or in an unincorporated city, has the potential of being assessed for paving improvements by the county. Unless the information is specifically requested from the specific department in the county, the unpaid assessment may be missed. Palm Beach County levels special assessments on property for pavement, water, and sewer connections. Although the original lien may be easy to find on the owner that it was levied on at the time in the clerk of the court, the lien does not always list the most current amount owed to the municipality due to interest or adjustments in costs. A payoff request may be made to the county in order to receive the most accurate amount due before the closing. Again, most title agents wouldn't know maybe where to get this. Experienced ones would, but again, they don't have the time, and the county's not going to respond to them as quickly as they do to the lien search companies who they have relationships with.
Question,
So
Kathy.
there are some things.
Kathy, someone asked, where do PACE liens show up?
Okay, a PACE lien is, you'll have a class we can do on that as well. A PACE lien will show up in the non-ad valorem section of the taxes. Again, when you go on your listing appointment, if you see new air conditioner, any new energy efficient appliances, hurricane windows that seem new, or even if they don't seem new, they can still look a little weathered and still be under the PACE program. Doors, garage doors, any type of energy efficient upgrades, solar panels, things like that. Ask the seller if they use the PACE program to purchase those. Most people don't realize that that's actually a lien on the property like a mortgage. If your buyer is going to get a mortgage, that has to be paid off at closing. Buyers don't understand it. There is an addendum that has to be put on the contract, and that addendum, that should all be discussed before the buyer signs the contract. It's very important that the buyer knows about that PACE program, because it will have to be paid off at closing. So it's important that the seller knows that. If the buyer is purchasing the property and they're paying cash and they don't know about it, and the seller hasn't advised them of it, it's going to show up on their tax bill. And it's a one lump sum that's added to the tax bill every year. It could be $3,000, could be $2,000. So if they think that their taxes are going to be $5,000 a year, and there's a payment to PACE for $3,000, well, actually they're going to need $8,000. So their mortgage company, well, their mortgage company's not going to let them do it, because it is actually a lien and it takes priority over a mortgage. Sometimes they're hard to find. The examiners are getting better at it, because it doesn't say it's a mortgage. It just says agreement. It could say fine. So again, it may not even show up on the tax bill, because if I have energy efficient windows, hurricane windows put in my home in November or in October of 2020. It wouldn't show up on the November tax bill, of course, and it's not going to show up until the tax bill of 2021. So if nobody knows about it, if the examiner doesn't find it because it's not called a mortgage, and it doesn't show up on the non-ad valorem taxes for the current year, then that is going to show up on the next year. And then the buyer is going to say, hey, what's this? Right? So it's important to ask the seller if they, even if you don't see something, ask them if they have had any energy efficient appliances put in under the PACE program, because those have to be paid off at closing unless the
Great.
buyer agrees to it if it's a cash transaction.
That was great.
So it would show up in non-ad valorem.
Great information, Kathy. I wanted to, Debbie also mentioned, so she asked a question, is it safe to assume that once an open permit or lien is discovered, it has to be addressed in order to sell the property? But if the search is not done, the sale happens and the buyer may have to deal with it in the future. I would say yes, in most cases. I won't say in all cases, just because of, certain situations can be specific. But Kathy, if you agree with that, let me know. As well as I had someone ask about I want to clarify what I said about earlier about the lien searches. So specifically for Arrow, for us at Arrow Title Services, we only require, we do a lien search in St. Lucie County. We order that out because St. Lucie County is not good about updating their website with those liens. So we have to order one from them on specific properties to make sure that we can find out where those if there are liens on that property, because they're not good about publicly updating it. In Martin County, they're on top of updating those liens. So we do the work ourselves in looking up those liens, making sure that there are no liens on the property. That's what we do. We don't charge for that specifically for the lien search because we're able to look it up. But I just wanted to clarify that because someone had said that they were getting charged for lien searches. There may be other title companies that are charging for lien searches and ordering them out in Martin County. That still could be a thing. Or maybe they're just charging for it and they're doing the work themselves. I don't know. I don't work for another title company, but that's what we do specifically here at Arrow. We do not charge for the lien searches in Martin County because we are able to look it up ourselves. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, and I agree with what Lucie says. Some people, just don't want to do that. They want to put it on a third party. And again, if it's available in public records and not the public records, the county records are up to date or the city records and they can get it there, that's perfectly fine. So that's fine. Now, again, this is not a title problem. We had a woman purchase a home in Miami. I always go to Miami because we have a lot of problems in that area because there are still a lot of open expired permits from Hurricane Andrew, as I said. So she had her title insurance policy. She got a letter and it was for a code violation. And the code violation was for like $70,000, I believe. So she calls up, our claims department and said that she had a claim for $70,000. And we said, okay, do you have your title insurance policy and blah, blah, blah. Yes, I do. Okay. And so now you have to, then you have to send a letter in with the claim and what it is. And so she said, well, I got a letter, regarding code violations. And title insurance doesn't cover code violations. It only covers if something was recorded in the county and it was missed. Let's say they missed a mortgage. Let's say Old Republic examiner missed a mortgage. Well, now the buyer lives in the house and now they get a letter saying, hey, you didn't pay your mortgage payment. What do you mean I didn't pay my mortgage payment? Yes, I did. Well, the name on the mortgage is from a previous owner or from 2 owners ago. And there's still a mortgage out there. Well, if it is in fact true, then the underwriter, whether it be Old Republic, whether it be First American, if it is a true claim, if it's something that was in public records and was missed, then the underwriter will defend that person up to the amount of the insurance. So if my title insurance policy is for $350,000, they are going to defend and pay that claim up to $350,000. If I don't have title insurance, I have to hire an attorney to take care of that for me. Okay. So if I have title insurance, I contact the underwriter and there are attorneys who will take care of that, who will defend them, who will, whatever has to be done. So that's why it's very important for a person to have title insurance so that they know. Or a missing heir, you know, somebody hasn't been seen for many, many years. Their parents are deceased, and then they never got to sign off. There was a will and there was a property sold, and the different heirs, the children had to sign off on deeds, right? It's a requirement, depends on a lot of different things when there's probate issues. So they may have to sign off. Maybe there's 4 kids and 4 kids had to sign off, but they only could find 3. And then several years later, a person comes forward and says, hey, you know, I was wherever I was and nobody contacted me and I did not sign off on that. I'm the heir, I didn't sign off. So technically I kind of still own that property. Well, it doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And if it is true and in fact true, then, you know, the title insurance will take care of those types of things. So that's why it's important for the people to understand that it's not just an easy job, like, oh, the title agent doesn't have this to do, blah, blah, blah. Just like your job is not easy either. You work very hard for your commission. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff to title, as Lucy and I were saying before. You kind of have to be a detective sometimes. You have to look at, you know, papers, at signatures, at a whole bunch of stuff. And then you have to put it all together. Sometimes it's like a jigsaw puzzle. But we want to make sure that that buyer has clear and marketable title to be able to sell that property without anybody and own that property without anybody coming forward and saying, hey, I actually own a piece of that. I actually own that. So again, it's an important item. You know, again, don't ever tell anybody that they don't need title insurance for themselves. The lender's policy just protects the lender, you know, that nobody else is in first position, that, you know, they're going to get paid first before anybody else, unless it's federal tax lien, right? Or these super priority liens that we have here in Florida, which are so silly. Property taxes are not due and payable until November 1st, so they become a quote lien on the property as of January 1st. The title search also includes the records from the tax collector indicating the current taxes and any delinquent taxes. That's why it's always so important. They check, you know, to make sure that everything's paid. If taxes are delinquent, they are collected at closing and mailed in. So some tips: discuss municipal lien search at the listing appointment to see if the seller would like to order it prior to the closing, prior to even signing the contract. Because this way, if you get that municipal lien search, and again, Lucy, you can maybe know this better than me. I don't know how long they're good for. I don't know if they expire in 30 days. I'm not sure. But let's say that seller did get that municipal lien search and they noticed that there was an open expired permit, or they noticed because maybe they didn't know about it, right? Maybe it was from when they purchased the home and maybe they didn't have a municipal lien search done at that time. So it's still there. It doesn't go away. It's still out there. So maybe they want to do it ahead of time. And if they do it ahead of time, then they can take care of any issues so that the buyer doesn't feel, well, gee, you were supposed to tell me in writing if you knew of anything and you didn't tell me. So what else is wrong with the property? What else did you lie about? I mean, people think like that, you know? So again, maybe the seller would want to do that before. Lucy, I don't know if you think that's a good idea. You're more in the realm of things than I am. Do they expire after a certain amount of time? Are they only good for 30 days? Do you know?
I specifically don't know if they're like technically good for a specific amount of time. That would be a question for Michelle. But from my knowledge, it would be good as long as there's no other outstanding liens that are coming into contact with that. So if they, you know, just got a like roof replaced or something like that, like if they had a open permit that was on that property and it hasn't been recorded yet. So like, let's say they just got that done a little bit ago and it hasn't been recorded onto that property yet, and then they don't disclose that and we go to sign over everything and that wasn't mentioned, then that's kind of where that hiccup could happen if when we do the search that didn't show up, type of thing. So that's kind of like where the mushy line is.
Yeah, it's you know, some people are starting to do that. They're going to, you know, have the seller pay for the municipal lien search, do it before. And if they know that there's none, I mean, and sometimes you can check. I know I've had work done on my property and I can check, you know, to see, oh yeah, and I know that the guy has to come and inspect it. So of course I'm going to be on top of it. And that's something that, you know, you can always talk to your clients about as well. Paragraph 9 determines who pays for that lien search. So if the seller does get it ahead of time and the buyer's supposed to pay for it, then the buyer could always reimburse the seller at closing on the settlement statement. Be proactive, and if available, research the county online sites for permitting and code violations. Develop a few relationship with a few contractors who are familiar with closing out permits or assistance in resolving code violations. There are some handymen or some contractors who do this all the time, so they know the inspector, just like the electrician knew the inspector in Deerfield Beach. So he went out and did the work and had the inspector come there the same day, and my son closed, you know, the day after. So again, it's always good to develop those relationships. Be aware that some counties and municipalities have a slower than average turn time. As Lucie said, it depends. That's why they order them. And sometimes you want a quick closing, but there may be a lag time on it. Verify with the title company who orders that municipal lien search to get an estimated time of arrival for that municipal lien search if it is a quick closing. And all parties should put in writing conditions to go forward with a transaction if a violation occurs. If there is something, you know, they're going to do a negotiation, or is it on the contract that the seller is going to take care of everything, or that the buyer is going to accept the property the way it is? You know, so again, it's up to you to point these things out to your clients. So that's it for me today. Anybody have any additional questions? Anything there, Lucie?
Yeah, so someone had just asked, what about if HVAC was replaced 10 years ago with a previous owner? Does the current seller have to open/have it closed? Does that make sense?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, I think that would be, again,
Yeah.
a lot of these things are situational, guys. So like when it comes
Right.
to specific contracts, we really have to like see where the property is, what type of you know, lien is put onto the property. Like it's so situational, just like everything in real estate, right? I mean, we're all kind of going through this, and it's like these different situations can affect things in different ways. So if there is a specific question like that, it's really hard to give general answers sometimes when it really just does depend on so many little things. So that would probably be a question for Michelle, but also if we like had the contract and we're able to like, or even just saw the address, like we'd be able to give a more better representation of what that answer would be.
That's right. Each file is different. Lucie was saying earlier, it's the same process, but every file and every situation is different. So you can't really give a down pat answer.
Yeah, which is why when
Okay.
Debbie asked earlier, is it safe to assume? And I was like, you know, like, yes, it's safe to assume, but like, you don't want to assume for every single thing. Like you could say like, this is generally what we see, but you never know. This is real estate. There's bumps all over the place. You never know what hurdles you're gonna have to jump over because some situations get so specific. And you guys know that. I mean, you guys are in the industry every day. You guys come up across new problems all the time. So it's just working with your local, you know, professionals, and we do everything we can to be communicative with you guys and make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on, what we're finding, and just communicating with each other to get things solved and see what we have to do for those processes. We are very good about communication here. So does anybody else have any questions in regards to Kathy? Oh, I heard someone. Was that you, Kathy? Or someone? I heard someone start talking. No?
Probably me.
Oh, okay.
I was saying, yep.
Awesome. So for you guys who are still here and everything, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We are going to have the replay available for you guys. So I'm going to email that out to you, as well as all the classes that we've done in the past are available on our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services. So if you guys get subscribed to that, you'll get notified when that posts, but I'm going to send out an email to all of you guys and to those who missed the class. I am doing a little giveaway, so stay tuned for just 2 seconds. And thank you guys again for being a part of this. We love being able to educate you guys, and if you guys ever have any questions specifically in regards to anything, whether it's title or social media or whatever, I'm here for you guys. You guys can reach out to me directly. I can put my information in the chat again if you guys like. But I have a bottle of Malais champagne. So I'm going to give this away with some little goodies along with it. So if you guys want a chance to win it, all you have to do is let's put into the chat a number between 100 and 500. I see that Marcia and Cheryl have this, or Marcia and Roberta have the same number. So if you want to pick another one, of you want to pick another one, Roberta actually had it first. So if Marcia, if you want to pick another one really quick. All right, 2 seconds left if you want to enter. 1, 2. All right. The number was 252. So who is closest to that? Let's see. 252. Is that there was 225 and 275. So 275 would be closer, right? Yep. 275 would be closest. So that actually, that's funny because that was the one number that Greg just put 252. No, that doesn't count, Greg. So Roberta, you win. Close one, Greg. I saw that though. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Kathy, for the great information and great presentation.
My pleasure.
Just so that you guys know, we do have some upcoming classes with MCRTC. We have February 19th, which is boundary lines. That is also going to be with Kathy, as well as March 5th. We're going to be at how to start YouTube for realtors, which is going to be hosted by me. So if any of you guys are interested in that, make sure that you guys look into that. Oh, Anthony, why are you saying you got robbed? Did you have another number? 225? That was 225 and 275, but it was 252. So they had you by two numbers. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I hope that you guys found this helpful. Thank you guys so much.
Bye-bye.